the introductions. Todd's going to talk about what's new in the 3.2 operating system. The software has a new look, some really good graphical enhancements with conics and lines, chem boxes, new questioning techniques. I'll be talking about PublishView features and Math and Science implementation, and also bringing in a Math-Inspired document. And with that, I'll have Todd discuss the expectations from the webinar.
What we're going to do, hopefully, by the time we're done, we're going to give you a location where you can actually find many of these activities. We're going to give you the ability to use some of the new features on 3.2, which are pretty amazing that I've got an opportunity to use in my classroom so far. We're going to, Tom's going to work on doing a PublishView document with you for Math and Science, and then we're going to, it's going to go back to Michael, and he's going to talk about how to keep in touch and how to be involved from here on out. So let's get started. The first thing that I want to address, well, I'll give it back to Michael for a second as we flip over.
Thanks. Thanks, Todd. So if you noticed, Todd's now sharing his desktop, and now that he's done that, the chat window and the Q&A windows, which used to be on the right side of your screen, have moved. They are now at the top of your screen. You'll see a green tab, and if you bring that green tab, if you highlight or hover over that green tab, you can bring up the chat window or the Q&A window as we go through this webinar. Thanks, Todd.
You're welcome. So one of the questions that was sent to us earlier before this webinar was how to get data from a spreadsheet or get some XY coordinates from a spreadsheet out into a calculator. So what I did is I added a spreadsheet and dropped in some time data and some distance data. And one of the primary things here in a spreadsheet all the time is that you need to title your columns. And when you do that, it actually creates a variable called time. So when I go to a calculator, and I've already added a calculator here, but I can go to my variable button on the left-hand side on my pad and go down and select time. And when I press enter, it actually pulls up those values from my spreadsheet. So one of the things that we want to stress tonight is the multiple representations, and multiple representations coming through different pages too that these variables are going to carry throughout our document. And so I do want to express that here early just because somebody had asked that question, and we wanted to make sure we touched on that. So here's the distance, and we can see there's our set of points in a calculator view. And we can manipulate those and multiply by those and count how many elements and do some other things in there. But I think what we're waiting for is to see, you know, what's new, what's happening in TI-Nspire 3.2. So let's move over to 1.3, my page 1.3, and some new features in 3.2. First of all, the software layout. One of the things that we've been asking for is to have a keypad up, but we still want some of our tools available. And so at the top of my screen, you'll notice that there's a small down arrow. When I click on that, it opens a series of tools for me. Now, one of the tools that we had to keep jumping back and forth for was the document tool, or this menu button. Instead of pressing menu, now I have that menu still up here so I can manipulate things. So that's kind of nice. It also, you'll notice across this title bar, there's different fonts, so we can change font type. We can change the size of fonts. So if I want to make my font bigger or smaller, I can do that now very quickly. What many of us have started to do is we've started to make things in smaller font for writing documents. We can change font color at this point. So I can go in and change font color. We also have, we can use multiple fonts now. If you notice here on the multiple fonts, we have bold, underline, I changed the color. There's a variety of things that we can do. And this isn't just in the notes, where I'm in a notes page right now, but this actually flows into other areas also. So what we want to do is, one of the big new features is the graphing features that are available for us now. And so I'm going to jump into the next page, which is my graphs. And you'll notice something new in this. Number one, we have a piece of graph paper. And if what I can do now is when I open up my view, you'll notice if we go to grid, there's now a dot grid, which we've seen in the past. But there's also now a line grid. And when we click on the line grid, we have a piece of graph paper. Some of you probably already are looking at this x equals 4. And if I click that and open that up, you'll notice that we have a new form of equation. You'll notice it says E1. This new form of equation, now I can put in x equals some value. The other one I have, well, over here I can move that around and actually change its value also. So I can grab and drag that. Now, this particular line here, I decided to just type it in as text. And so I can go in and type in a text value of x equals something now. So x equals 2. And what I can do at this point is drag this to an axis and let go. And you'll notice x equals 2 appears. Again, I can drag this back and forth. But one of the special things about this I thought was neat was now I can rotate it also. And it not only stays in X form, but it also, I mean, that's the neat thing is it stays in X form. So we can play around with that. As we go to the next page, we do some shading. Again, I can type in X is greater than 5 and drag it to the axes. And you'll see also Y is less than or equal to -2. I also have another line form here that says 2x plus 4 times y equals 6. Again, here's where I get this particular tool. When I'm in a graphing utility, I go down to graph type, and you'll see a new icon here. And this one, equations, now we have conic section. And so the two things that I started to play with were, there's my x equals c, and I can type that whatever c I want in there. But we also have kind of a standard form of a line equation here. Well, we have the mx plus b, but we also have this form. When I click on it, it pops up a box so that I can fill in the value for x. So if we say -2, 3, and 4, it's going to pop in a line for us. Again, we can manipulate the lines so we can see what effect they have on our equation. Okay.
Hey, Todd?
Oh, yes.
We had a question pop up, and someone's asking if we could enter x equals c as a line and animate c. So I'm thinking maybe if we could insert a slider.
So if I insert a slider, and sure, we'll call it c. And so if I go back in here and do my graph type equation, x equals c, type in c, there's our line, and sure enough, we can manipulate our line. Okay. So we can play around with those multiple representations here. We can substitute in the variables and then control a lot of our animations and a lot of other things that we do by creating sliders and to create movable objects. While we're at it, we might as well do something related to, let's say we do x is less than -c. And I'm playing, guys. I don't know if that works. It's always fun to try when you're not sure if it's going to work for you or not. There we go. So that particular one works fine for us. So all I did was I created a text box of an x equals something, drug it to my axes, and the greater than or less than appears. Plus, we're able to use the variables to control it. Other new features are the different forms of parabolas that we can enter now. If you notice, we have the y equals a times x minus h plus k version here. Again, we can control it and manipulate it and see what happens to those variables as we change them. We also have the standard form of a parabola in the form of y. Also are able to manipulate and see what happens. And then now we have this new version where we actually have the X as so non-functional, or should we call them dysfunctional? We have a functional in the X direction. And again, if we look up here, I'm going into graph type equations. We go into parabolas, and you can see the different varieties of parabolas that we can create and the different forms. So we have a standard form in the X direction also. We can also create circles in a point radius form. So we have this particular circle here. What's kind of nice about this one, again, it's we can control it, move it around to different locations. We also have kind of a standard form of a circle where you have everything equal to 0 or equal to whatever value you are in the form of x squared and y squared on together there. This one is we can move the center point, but the radius is going to be stuck. Again, if we wanted to define variables like C and B or H and K and wanted to manipulate those, we can do that at this point and actually control our circles to expand or contract depending on the H and K's, just like we did with the earlier slider.
Hey, Todd, we have another question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Kim asks if the different line options will be something that we can toggle on or off when in press to test mode.
You know, I do not know that one off right now. I would have to defer that to someone at TI at this moment.
Okay. Todd, this is Eric.
Yeah.
I'm looking at press to test right now, and one of the options is disabling implicit graphing, conic templates, conic analysis, and geometric conics. So I think that implicit graphing, being able to type in an x equals and drag it to an axis, that can be disabled.
Great. Okay. All right, so if we go to other conics that are available right now, we have the ellipse, and you'll notice the ellipse, the center point of the ellipse, whoop, I grabbed my hyperbola here. Well, let's move the hyperbola over. Notice I have these all kind of stacked up because I was playing. We have the ellipse in standard, or in, so we can see actually what's happening to our H and K, and we can actually grab on to each one of these at a central point and drag them around the screen. As I play with this, I can go in, double-click on any of them, and it gets me into the template, and I can change the size of the size and the direction that I want this ellipse to go. Also, hyperbolas. You notice that we have some hyperbolas that we get to play with a little. We can also do some conic analysis. And so what I'm going to do to get some working space is I'm going to hide a couple of these equations so that I have some space to work. So one of the features of hiding equations, and some of us, as we build a lot of these activities, hide things so that we have space to work. If you're on the computer, I always use a right mouse click and just select hide as I go. And it gives me a really quick option to hide things, get them out of the way. Now, some of the analysis tools that come with this now, if I select menu and I go to analyze, you'll notice that there's analysis for conics. And so we can do things like the asymptote. I want to know where the asymptotes are of those hyperbolas. So if I select asymptote and I select the hyperbola I want, notice what happens to my equations. I get both of the equations for the asymptote. I can do the same thing here. And the nice thing about them is they stay in the color, the same color as the equation itself, and so there's no confusing. You know, are they the red asymptotes, or are they for the red hyperbola or the black hyperbola? We also have tools for analyzing things. We want to find the foci of the ellipse, so we can go in, select the foci, and I can, you know, the activity where we start to play around with, okay, so what happens to the length of the segments that go from the foci to the ellipse. I think there's some neat features that can be built off of that and have kids discover a lot of mathematics as opposed to us just telling them or having them construct one on paper. One of the things, I just started playing with this and I thought it was kind of fun. I didn't get too carried away, but I used a math box here to define H. I'm in a notes page, and so what I did is I decided I want to define H. So I went in, inserted a math box, and started to define things. And I can define all the variables I want. We'll call one tall right now. If I do a colon equals 2 times stride, it actually gives me an output of whatever 2 times the stride is. And if I change the stride to something, it changes my value. I use this a lot in writing labs where students need to get input as they go through a document. I'll give them a set of procedures, and then I'll give them a variable that they need to define as we go through it. It helps out a lot to carry that stride or that H or that tall all the way through the document. Now, what I've done is just played with some ellipses, some circles, a parabola, and decided I was going to make a little guy walk. And I started getting carried away, or started drawing him, and then I decided I'm not sure I have enough time to put his legs on and his arms, but I was going to have his legs walk and his arms swing, and kind of a neat feature that you can challenge some kids to use a bunch of their conic sections to do a variety of things. And you notice the steps are defined by my slider up here. I also, his height, the height of this circle is defined by the height of the person that's we define back here as H. And so we're starting to include those variables throughout a document. Okay, we've gone through conic sections. I want to address the math boxes for a minute, just because I use them quite a bit, and it's one of the features I think, as I see documents, it's pretty underutilized. And so I define a lot of variables throughout a document as I go, and so on notes pages, I'll use like pressure colon equals 0.92. And what kids can do is they can actually go into this predefined values and put in whatever they happen to have. So if they say it should be 2, you notice that my whole document will adjust based on that. And we can also put in things like units in this particular case. So for those science people out there that are going, well, I'd really like to put in units, I'm on a CAS version here, and I want atmospheres as my pressure. I want volume in liters. I want temperature, actually in Kelvin. Oh, I have a decimal out of place. And I want this ugly number in liters times atmospheres, moles times Kelvin. And I'm missing somebody somewhere here. But what happens is if you define these variables as you go through them, they'll actually cancel out and give you the correct value. I'm missing a Kelvin, and that's why I'm having trouble here with the K. But you notice it comes out in moles, and it works out the variables. It works out the units itself. So those science geeks out there, it's kind of nice to be able to do that. As we go through math boxes, a new feature, especially for the science people, is actually a chem box. And so if we go to the next page, one of the things that's been a headache is writing chemical formulas using subscripts and superscripts. And how do we arrange all these so that they look appropriate in the science classes. So the new tool is next, right below Math Box now. So under Insert Math Box, we go to ChemBox, and as we start to write a chemical formula, all we have to do is something like maybe we want glucose, so C6H12O6 plus some oxygen. We put oxygen in there, and all I'm doing is, as I type a number behind the oxygen, it automatically subscripts for me. And if I want an arrow, a yield sign, all I have to do is press equals, and it automatically gives me the yield sign. And so I can finish this equation out. Now notice I get a small O for cobalt. I have to push the shift key to get the large O, 2 plus H2O. So it gives me the functionality of being able to write a chemical equation now and do it fairly rapidly, as opposed to trying to find the subscript every time. We can also put in superscripts, and all you have to do is do the raise to, or as a friend of mine called it years ago, the TUDA key. So if we go down to the chem box again, if I had, say, sodium in an ionic form, I do raise to, put in my plus, and it automatically will give me the superscript also. So it's an easy way to write chemical formulas. It would be also an easy way to maybe quickly write out an equation where you need superscripts and subscripts. There's also a question app that's a chemistry question app. And so when you go into the questions now, if you select questions, you'll notice that there's one at the bottom here called chemistry. And what that allows us to do is write a question for chemistry, and then when the students respond, if they get down into their response, they can actually write out very easily, they can write out their response by just typing, just like we would on the computer. H2O2 gives us H2O plus O2. And so it allows the students to give correct responses or correct formulas, and makes it a lot easier to assess also. One of the question apps that I've started to really like is where they put a point on, and it quickly helps me figure out, how much do the students actually understand of an image that we're working with. If we're working with flames or working with chemicals, where are they going to put their dot? If I ask this question in chemistry after we've discussed some energy, I should see the dots starting to pile up in one location. And if they click on this first yellow flame as they drop a dot, then I can get to them and say, okay, so why would you choose that? And so it allows me to create pictures or images or other things, maybe a parabola, asking the students, where's the vertex of the parabola? Or, doing cells, which you have 4 cells on screen, and ask which one is undergoing mitosis, or one of the stages of mitosis. So it gives us a lot of flexibility to have kids just kind of input their ideas and then get some responses back from them. Another new feature is in geometry is actually being able to create things like ellipses from the definition of an ellipse. Now Tom, let's see if Tom's with me or if he's quiet.
I just unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Do you want to take this section, Tom?
No, go ahead. You're doing fine.
You're doing okay. So here, what you can do is now within geometry, what I did is I added a graphs page, and under my shapes, you'll notice some new shapes that we can add. We can play around with the ellipse where we have the foci and then also a point on the ellipse. And so if I create my ellipse from that point, there's my two foci, and then I construct my final point. And so what I can do is I can start having kids, again, discovering, how does that foci relate to the position of the major and the minor axes of this ellipse. We can also do some other things such as hyperbolas, a parabola. Notice that I started to play around with this parabola, being able to define it based on its focal point and its directrix. And so we're able to play around and change some things based on the construction of those objects. A hyperbola, being able to change the location, also being able to, there's a third point on here so that we can see what happens as we drag around. So you can have a discussion with the kids and drawing in different relationships for the students to decide what's occurring in each one of those figures. And so if we look at where that's at again, in a graphs page, actually I'll add one real quick, and then I'm going to let Tom take it from there. So if I add a geometry, didn't want to add a geometry page, I want to add a graphs page. A couple neat things again, we can add in our line grid. And now if I go into menu, I'm going to take this a different route because if I go down to geometry, go to my shapes, I can drop in my ellipse. So pick a point, pick a second point, and set my ellipse. So what we've done and what they've done is they've added a whole bunch of new features with the conics. They've also added some three-dimensional, three-dimensional parametric graphing, which I think is a neat new feature that I'm going to start to play with myself. And I think those are the things I'd really like that I get to share with you guys today. So I want to hand this over to Tom and let him take you from here.
Yep. Before we do that, Todd.
Oh, okay.
Yes. You could probably just answer this verbally. We had a question, and give me a second to get it back.
Okay.
So one of the questions was, this chem box would never allow a student to solve a chemical equation similar to the solve tool under the algebra tools, and that was the question?
No, it will not.
Okay. And then a second question from Amy, can the point on question be used in an assessment that is collected and graded?
Well, you can give an ordered pair or a set of ordered pairs that would actually accept as a acceptable answer. So, kind of. I don't know if you could put a range in there. I haven't played with it enough to give myself a range of acceptable answers, but I'm guessing that you may be able to do that.
Thank you. All right, Tom.
Okay. All mine? Okay. Is my desktop available or showing?
Not yet. I'm sorry, no, I believe it is.
Oh, it is now?
Are you?
You can see that?
Are you on the
try
buy-in this webinar slide?
No.
So maybe go to the Quick Start tab at the very top.
Yeah, it's disappeared.
Okay. There.
Yeah, there is no.
Okay. What about the very, very top of your menu? There should be a Share menu, and under the Share should be My Desktop. In the very top menu bar.
Okay. Yeah.
There it goes.
There we go. Looks good, Todd.
All right. And there, we good there? Yeah, I somehow lost that. Now it's there, that nice little thing that pops up and down. Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. What's new, tried, and true? I do always like to start with a quote, and I have to do that here, too. 2 ways to live. You can live as nothing is a miracle. You can live as if everything is a miracle. And surprisingly, that came from Albert Einstein, good old Albert. And just 2 really quick slides. Hopefully you've never seen this in your classroom. And for the AP exam, I thought I would do a limit problem with you. Limit as x approaches 8, 1 over x minus 8 is infinity. So students ask, what would this be? And you might have seen this before, but it's always worth a chuckle. So I'm supposed to be talking about PublishView, and it is one of my favorite features from the 3.0 operating system. Those of you who remember TI Interactive, it's like TI Interactive on steroids. It does allow you to create interactive documents. Now this is for the computer environment, it's not for the handheld, okay? So make sure you realize that. Uses, student-created reports, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Teacher-created lesson plans, which Todd actually mentioned before. Interactive worksheets and interactive textbooks. I think you could even write a textbook with something like this. So first of all, to create interactive worksheets, which some of you know I like to call GIFs. I'm going back in the old way. I had an oil refinery problem. What's the cheapest way to ship oil from point A to point B if parts underwater and parts on land? And this is what the PDF was that I used back in '98 and still being used today. And then I upgrade it to PublishView, and hopefully it looks a lot better in PublishView. I mean, I've got color, I've got links, I've got pictures. So I might even show you this. I have it here. And so a student could be reading and doing this, and if they get stuck, let's say they get stuck with what to do in trial 1, they can click on a hint, and I have it so that it links to a video that I created that explains it. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but just let you know that it's available. Continue on if they need a hint for another one, there's a hint there. But this is a lot nicer, a lot more interactive, a lot more alive than that dead PDF that I used for many, many years. I can link what does an offshore oil rig look like and so on. But then we can also use it for math. So if the students are having a hard time realizing what's going on here, they're asked to grab point G and say, if I move this point along here, what's the cost on land, what's the cost underwater, what's the total cost? And then to help them get the equation, they can even grab point G, and I made it so that it automatically collects the data, and then if they're modeling an equation, models that data, they've got the right one. So that's how you could use it as an interactive worksheet or as a gift. But you really wanted to see how to create one, so that's what I want to do is show you how to create this, and those are my notes for me. So let's go ahead and I'll go back and say in the software, File, now not new Inspire document, but new PublishView document, and this is a sheet, okay, the very first sheet. I click up in this top area here, and I can put in like a heading, but notice instead of just using Inspire, I can use any font, and I'm pretty much an Arial kind of a guy, so I'll go with Arial. I can change the size of the font, the color of the font, and so we'll just call this Sample, and it looks like I didn't do very well with the color, so let me just pick it, choose it, and change that color back. Also, I can insert text. Usually I like to put in text and explain what we're going to do. So there's 2 ways to do this. One is to grab a notes application and then go ahead and type in the notes application. Now there's advantages to that. One of the advantages is that you can resize it, you can grab it and move it. You can also use this ABC in the PublishView objects that also allows you to type your information. But the difference here is you can change the fonts in this. You have all the different fonts, whereas if you just use the notes application, you're pretty much stuck with TI-Nspire. So there's 2 different ways to do that. You choose which one you want. So let me go ahead and resize this and grab and move it. And I'm creating a sample document, but it's not a useful one. It's just going to be one that illustrates the features of this. It's not really going to be a one that you can say, oh, I can use this. All right, if I want to put in a graph, click on the graph icon, slide it in, and you pretty much have that there. But what's nice is you can make it as big as you want, or at least as big as it'll fit on that sheet. And if I wanted to graph, let's say 6 minus x squared, and graph it, I can go and change the window because I really don't like the auto. I'd rather have those units be 1. And so you've got that, and you can pull that around. I need a new sheet, so I'm going to go up here and say insert. I can insert a new problem, but I'll just insert a new sheet. And you'll notice that my heading is automatically the same heading that I had before. And this time I'm going to put in a list and spreadsheet. So I'll go back over here, and that looks like a list and spreadsheet. If I hover over it long enough, it'll show you that. And I'll put that in, and I'm going to call this column unit. It means nothing, actually. And in unit, I'll just type the number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the other one I'll call cell. And again, this is just dummy variables, dummy values, rather. 1, 2, 5, 10, 17, and 26. But what's nice about this is what you can't do on your handheld is make that list and spreadsheet bigger, whereas here I can make it big so it takes care of the data I want, and then also make it narrower so I only have what I want there. If I wanted to create a data and statistics that graphs that, I just go over to data and statistics, pull it over, resize it, and if I say I want to have this variable be the unit and this one be the number of cells, there's that data, and I can even analyze that and put in some kind of function, and I think it's x squared plus 1. At least that was my idea when I created it. And you can do regressions and all that sort of thing. All right, at this point I'm just going to show you how you might want to save the file. So file save as. This one I'll just call webinar. And save that, because you do want to save it. Things go wrong sometimes, and you don't want to lose the whole thing. Okay. If I wanted to add some pages from a current document, I can do that too. So let me go ahead and insert another sheet and pull this down. And right here it says TI-Nspire Documents. So I'm going to click on these 3 dots for browsing. And the one I want to use is area formulas. Some of you have seen that. That's on the math-inspired one. It's one of my favorite documents. And I can go ahead and just pull the slides right in, so I don't have to recreate the wheel. If I have something I like already, I can bring that in and resize it. Bring in another one, again, and resize it. And if those of you who have not seen this one before, this is trying to show students how you find the area of a parallelogram. Here they have a rectangle and a parallelogram with the same base and height, and what students are asked to do is to grab point P and pull it over and see, yes, that exactly is the same area. So area of a parallelogram is base times height. Add another sheet, and again, could add some more pages from this. The triangle one's good. Oh, this one oh, this is kind of clever. I can't add this because it's using the same variables as the other one, so I did need to insert a problem instead of a sheet there. So let me insert a new problem, and now it'll let me grab and pull that over there. Okay, so that's a nice thing to learn for if you want to copy somebody else's stuff. If you have a problem like that, you might have to just insert a new problem because they might be using the same variables. And here you just grab point Q, pull it over, and so on. So that's a kind of nice thing. You can use any current TNS file and add those pages right there. Okay. Another thing you might want to do is add a web link. And to do that, I'll go back below this select where my PublishView objects are. This one is for a photo, this is for a video, this is for the PublishView text box, and this is the web link. So I'm going to go ahead and add a web link here. And I'm going to say this is Tom's web page. And I do need the address, so let me go ahead and find my web page. I have it here somewhere. And I can just go ahead and copy and paste any web. So Control-C to copy it. Here for the address, Control-V, and OK. And there is a live link, and you could have a better explanation for it if you wanted. So if this was in your PublishView document, student comes by, I'm going to go ahead and close out my my web page to show you that it will open again. So from this document, if I click on that, it should open my browser. There's my web page. So if you want to have students to be able to go to another website to clarify something you're trying to show them, very, very interactive, very, very quick, very, very easy to do that. You could add pictures here, and since we're kind of well, I better show that. So let me go add another sheet, and if I wanted to add a picture, just grab this over here and say, what do you want to add? And I found a picture of a trapezoid. As long as it's one of these file types, you can easily add it, insert it, resize it, move it around. Okay, extremely easy to create these things. Okay, and go ahead and save that. And so that was our first PublishView document together, right there. Not a pretty one, but you can see some of the how some of the features are.
Hey, Tom.
Yes.
Amy has a question. I'm not sure if you're able to answer this or not, but I know that she's not the only one that's trying to do this. So she had opened the Navigator Teacher software application, converted her document to a PublishView document, and then exported it as a web page. And at this point, she's not sure how to put it actually on her web page. She said that she can't get Google Sites to show anything, but Weebly will show the viewer window, but will prompt her to find the file.
Yes, those are things I'm not familiar with. I have my own website, so I just put it right on my own website, so I don't know how those third-party ones would work. Okay, so I'm sorry, I can't help you with that one. Okay? Sorry about that. So whoever that was, just since I couldn't answer your question, I'll just send you a PEZ virtually. Hopefully that will help. Maybe not, but at least the thought's there. All right, so PublishView also can be used by students to create reports. And here's one that I created. Actually, I was in Melbourne in November, and I had to wait for my wife. And so while she was shopping, so I created this one. It's what I considered a student's report on temperature data for Melbourne, and I have links to pictures, links to videos, plotted the data, showed how you could come up with a sinusoid to approximate that curve. And again, that took about 45 minutes, and that was all done in a hotel lobby. So it can be done. I've been working with Carlo Trafficani, a colleague of mine, and Carlo has his students working with the explorations books. I remember that, the Real World Data one, Linda Antonone and Chris Bruningsson and Bill Bauer, those guys created it a long time ago. It's now been updated for Nspire, and his students are doing that right now. A student just yesterday sent me, this is his rough draft. And I'm just amazed at what he's been able to do. I mean, look at the color that he used here to explain amplitude, oscillation, and so on. In fact, I think I have his whole thing here. Or is it? No, I guess it isn't. So sorry about that. But that was one page of it. So it's pretty amazing what they're going to be able to do with the software. And remember, the student software does come with the handheld when they buy that. The document player. Real quickly, the document player allows you to play any file, any TNS file, or play it. Here's one of my favorites, domain and range. Grab the point and help the students visualize the domain and range with color. I could actually open this, the one we just created with this. Let me see if I can find that. I think it's on my desktop under webinars. And what did we call this? Webinar? Let me see if I can open that one up. Yep, it's opening. And so this is the one we just created. Okay, again, it's not that pretty, but I can interact with it. Okay. And I think, let's see if my link even will work. Oh, let's see if I can grab this point here. And I think you get the idea. I did that. Those are your Big Bang Theory enthusiasts. I did create a Big Bang, my favorite Big Bang clips that are math and science. That can be downloaded from all my stuff that I'll tell you later. So it tells you about the episode or the 2 or 3 minute thing, and then it clicks and takes you right to that video clip. So that's your like a present for gift from me to you. Okay. So let me go ahead and wrap this up here because time is arriving. You can go and get what's new version in OS 3.2 at TI's website. Right here, you can Google it or search their website. They also have the release notes for both the software and the Navigator software. Now you can see it even before it's released, and it'll tell you all the good stuff that Todd was telling you about. If you want to see 11 short videos about some of the new features, they're right here on my website. They're 1 to 2 minutes long. Somebody rated them 4 stars. That would have been me. And also, this surprisingly, I got an email this morning from a guy from Poland, the country Poland, that thank you for the 11 short films about the upcoming new operating system, and he was thrilled to get them. And I've never been wished this. I wish you prosperity. So that was kind of him to do that, or her. I guess it's to him. I don't know. But anyway, if you would like a link to all my stuff, go to my website. Click on link to all my stuff and you get all these things. If you have an iPhone or an iPad and it has a scan app, you can scan that code right there and it'll take you to my website. It doesn't really do a whole lot, it's just kind of geeky and you can do that. And then finally, if you're a Beatles fan, there's a hidden link to the Beatles' last album, After Abbey Road, but it's as a TI-Nspire PublishView document. And you can download that there, but again, it doesn't show up. Okay.